Oh, y'all just snuck up on me like that, huh? Been working on this locomotive, the 412-2. It's been a while, so we're going to see the video on how I built it, and we'll watch it run a little bit. Well, everybody, got this big bunch of River Aussie Hudson parts here. I'm going to try to build something with these. I have tons of these things, so just pick them up. You can see just parts. I just need a couple frames, so I'll probably use these two. A couple shells. May need some use out parts off that one. I don't know. I got a bunch of parts over there, but at least going to use these two right here. And what we're going to build is a 412-2 Union Pacific locomotive, which will require me to let's just take a look at this one here. So we'll leave the front trucks, which will just take off this one, probably put on this one, and then what I'll do is hack it back here somewhere, and probably have to cut it somewhere up in here, not sure where exactly, but then we'll have to mount the two frames together. That way we have a long frame and have 12 drivers, and then probably just leave this long on the rear, put shell on. Let's see here. So it's something like that, I guess, somewhere in that neighborhood. And then we'll put a Pacific style trailing truck on it. So I was going to use a 462 chassis, that way the cab would be up further, but I only have one good chassis left and I have to save it for something else. So we'll just use a Hudson chassis. It's a little bit longer, but you know, it'll look fine. So, but 412-2. So we have to extend the frame, and I got a bunch of old shells. Extend the shell, and I'll try to keep it all River Aussie. I still need a tender. I need an oil tender. I haven't located one of those yet. I've got tons of other tenders. I just don't have an oil tender. So I'll have to find an oil tender. So I'm not sure how I'm going to connect these. I thought about spot welding them. But the thing is, with spot welding, you better hope it's right where you want it the first time, because you have to grind it out and start over. So either I'll like bolt it together or spot weld it together. I'm not sure yet. We'll see after I gotta get this all disassembled, get the wheels out, everything, the rods, pistons, everything, all the plastic out of there, and then I can see where I need to cut them and put them together. So if I bought them together, I can just spot weld them. But I'm going to try to make this dual drive single motor. And I was thinking of putting a can motor in it with a shaft off each side of it, and using these. What I'll do is take one of these, have it pointing this direction on the front set, and then on the back set have it pointing the other direction, and then put the motor in the middle and hook them to those shafts. So I was thinking originally about doing dual motors, but yeah, I don't want to have any problems with one motor running better than the other, and then everything be on a bind. So we'll have to connect all the wheels together with driving rods. So can't have any kind of bind. So if we just use one motor to run both gears, hopefully it won't be in a bind. So we'll get this all tore apart and see how far we can get along. Alright, here's the frame. I used some epoxy to put it back together. Hopefully it'll work. I was originally going to weld it, but I'm afraid that kind of heat might warp it and stuff, so I'm going to try this first. So I got it set in a jig so it's all nice and straight. Everything's spaced out the way it's supposed to be. So I'll let it dry for a day or two and then go from there. Hopefully this stuff will hold, because I'm afraid the heat from welder will warp the crap out of it. So this should work. This is good stuff. It's JB Weld epoxy. Mix it up. I used it on my boat, so it is pretty good. So we'll see what happens after it dries. Alright, this stuff's dried pretty good now. And then I sanded it down a little bit with my Dremel tool. So pretty strong. Pretty strong. I think it's going to work out. And it don't look too bad either. I'll probably touch up with some paint later on. But the stuff I believe is going to work out really good for that. Now we're going to put the wheels back in, get all the linkages hooked up and rods and everything, and see how it is. Alright, here's the chassis. Got it all back together. Running the square motor, original square motor, just for testing. See, that epoxy, that JB Weld epoxy I got, that stuff held really good. It is super strong. No problems there. All the drivers, I'll still have flanges on them. I think I'll probably have to remove the flanges off these two center ones. I ain't worried about going around 18-inch curves because I really don't have any on my layout. 22s, I think I might have a couple of those or bigger. So if I can get this to go around a 22-inch curve, that's my goal. But not too hard. I may have to change some of these bolts in here for the rods, so not exactly all looking the same, which I got over there. I just got to dig some out. But I tested on piece straight track and it ran okay considering with this old motor. So what I'm gonna do is this gearbox here, probably flip it around backwards and then put the other gearbox in here, because this is a drive axle also, and then try to fit a can motor in there if I can. I got one that's coming in, so it's going to be kind of tight, so we'll see. And if I can't get one to work there, I'll just put a big old can motor back here or something and just run it. That I don't want to run two motors, because I don't want one motor to be running better than the other motor and cause it to bond, try to bind. So hopefully that can motor I got will work coming in. It was one of the, I don't know, looked like it might fit, but we'll see when it gets here. It wasn't very much. So, and now I got to put the shells on and start cutting those up. I got this one a little bit cut, got to fit it a little better, but start putting shells on. I had to put the shell on to get it to test run because I needed the weight. I had to have some extra weight, and it's still got the weight in it. So I'll have the weight, probably 2 weights in it if I can. I don't know. That's probably going to be in the way of the can motor, so I'll probably have to add some extra weights in other places, which is no big deal. So I'm going to extend this shell. I got some parts, pieces here, and some other parts, and try to lengthen that shell out. Alright, here's the update on my chassis I built for the 412-2. I got my can motor in. Originally I was wanting to run gearbox here, gearbox back here, flipped around the other way, put the motor in between them and connect them with rubber drive shaft or something. But I couldn't do that because the motor has to sit up high enough and don't rub the top of these drive wheels. And when it sets up that high to where it clears the drive wheels, then it doesn't line up with the shafts on the gearboxes, which causes the rubber drive shaft to bind and didn't want to spin and stuff. So I ended up going with this route. Gearbox in the front drives, drive shaft, and the motor I made a mount for, and got it all wired up. And I just used the original drive shaft out of a Hudson and notched the shaft out of the motor to fit inside that drive shaft, and that works pretty well so far. So the only thing now to do to the chassis, I believe, is I got to remove this traction tire, or this wheel with the traction tire, and put a solid wheel on there, and then do away with these flanges on these two sets of drivers here in the center. That way to go around curves. So it should be able to go around my curves out like that, I think. So that shouldn't be too big of a deal. And then I got the shell I've been working on. I got it with body filler. I got a big old glob right there. I got to sand down. I'll let it get hard, so it's going to take a little sanding. I'll use my Dremel to get it knocked down real good, and then sand it up, and then probably have to add some more and just fix it all in, make it nice and smooth and all that. Try to make it look like it's factory. And then we're going to remove these things here. Looks like some little fake water heater type thing they put into the shell. I'll just sand those out and fill them in if I need to. I think most of the other details I'll probably leave. So I might do away with some of this stuff on the sides here, smooth it out, some of this piping and all that, sand it off maybe, make it look smoother, because the original one's nice smooth, I believe. Don't have a bunch of details on the boiler, but probably leave that. Gotta have a little bit of details, but I'm not sure. And then this fits right down on there, and then I got the piece that goes under it all put together. Right now it fits over the can motor and everything. And like I said, I tried to leave as much detail as I could. It's got two of those tanks now instead of one. And then the other side the same way. Tried to leave all the details as much as I could. I don't know if they're prototypical, but they look good. So, and then this will sit on there, and then I'll sit on there. I'll try to put it all back together like the way the original one is. That way it's easy to work on. In case something happens, I can take it apart easy. So then I'll have to put the weights in. I'll probably run 2 weights if I can. I don't know. Run the weight. The original weight goes up here in the front, which I know I can put that in there no problem. And then I'll probably have to, probably do some extra weights or something. I don't know. That's got a little weight to it now. I mean, so probably at least put the one in the front and see how that does. I can probably put some little weights here and there if I need to, but that'd be about it. So I'm gonna do these wheels and stuff, and then get back on finishing that. And then I got the tender I want to use for it. It's River Rossi. So it won't be Baltimore and Ohio, it'll be Union Pacific, I believe. So I really don't have to do much of this. Just take the lettering off and then re-letter it. So I'll probably end up painting this and painting all this together black. That way it all matches. So that'd be easy. So got the shell all constructed. It's ready for final sanding. The nose, I got to redo some of the work on the cover there. But I used popsicle stick when I cut this and got to the length so it fit in there. Popsicle stick glued in to hold it in place, so I could add styrene and into there. And then I used auto body filler to shape it a little bit more. Got it all sanded down nice and smooth, and there was some imperfections in it, so I used them as spot putty after I primered it to fill that in. So now I just got to lightly sand all this real quick, and then probably give it another coat. I still need to remove these off the front there, along with probably that piping, because we don't need it. And I forgot to do that before I primered it. And let's see, I add some details to it, like this piping here, which originally run up to here, so I have to fill it in with a piece of wire or something of about the same size. So, and then just lightly sand it all, and then give it one light coat of primer. This should be about it for that. So, and then the tender I'm using is a River Rossi from B&O tender from a 210-2 I got. So it'll just need a good cleaning. I'll take all the railing stuff off, primer and paint it, decal it, just Union Pacific. Put it back together. That would be easy enough, no problems there probably. But the chassis, I've did a lot of different wheel configurations, see what works best. It runs. I don't know what it's going to pull, so it's just a cheap $10 micro can motor. Seems to work okay. I mean, I don't know if it's going to pull like 50 cars or 5 cars, so I don't know. Just something I'd try. But the wheel configuration I ended up with is I left the flanges on the front set and the rear set. And these all had the flanges cut off. So, and what I did when I got rid of those flanges, you got to be real careful. I just used my Dremel with the sanding bit on the end. And I used a couple of those. So, went through those pretty quickly. But I just lightly sand those a little bit at a time, because you don't want to heat it up or nothing, because it's just plastic under the wheels. So you don't want to take a chance of melting it or the metal coming off the wheels, or the plastic wheels, you know. So you just real nice and slow, work with it, take your time. That way you don't overheat it. I didn't have any problems. So you can see I polished them out pretty good. And they when it's sitting level like this, they're not hitting anywhere. So I got the frame good and straight. So hopefully it'll run on my tracks pretty good. Some of my tracks ain't perfect, so might still cause a problem a little bit going around some of the tracks, because they're not completely level in a couple spots, you know. But it is running. But I think once we get it all back together and I get this all the body work done on this and details added back in, I'm gonna glue it back on this piece. That way it's all back to one piece. And I've got it cut out to where it goes around the can motor, fits on and off real easy, so there's no problems. And I had to take 2 of these and glue them together. So I'm trying to leave all the original screw holes and stuff in this thing. So you got the front weight that's going to go back in there, which lines up, and then you put your boiler back on. And I might have to put some weight into the rear. I think just a little bit of weight back here somewhere. So, but everything fits back together nicely. And pretty heavy with all the weights right here in the front. So, which might be good enough, but I'm still add a little bit of weight to the back. So, and then run an LED headlight, and then I got to take this New York Central badge off here and stuff like that. And then what the water heaters or whatever they're called, you go in the front of it, of the locomotive. And I think I got some over there. Some plastic ones I'll glue on and all that. But I tried a couple different wheel configurations on this. I originally started out with, I think, the second, third, and fourth set with flanges, and well, I did those second, third, fourth, and fifth sets with flanges, and it wouldn't go around. I ended up doing just second, third, and fourth set of wheels with flanges, and still they went around the layout, the bottom, around the amusement park, but it still derailed. But I did make it all the way around. I was surprised. But still derailed. So I ended up doing, leaving the rear flanges on the rear set and the front set, and the rest of them I grinded off. So I think it'll go around now. May still derail, but I didn't have any weight in it. I think when I ran it just as this chassis. So with the weight in it, it should help it out a little bit. But that's the setup we're going to go with, I think. And I've got it all back together. It's all cleaned, oiled, greased, so it's ready to go. So it looks like I'm about to change out the side rod here. I got it flipped. This one should go on the inside, that one should go on the outside maybe. Yeah, but that'll take a second. I'll do that here in a little bit. But now the process, just getting it all back, you know, painted, decaled, putting the weights in it, and finish up. I gotta take these off and get it all finalized, and because I'm not changing the wheels around no more. So if it doesn't perform very good, that's about all I can do with it, I think. So unless there's something wrong with one of the trucks or something, but everything seems to be okay. But it should run like this, I think. And then alright, now I've got all the details added that I'm going to add, I think. Added the piping that was missing. A couple of the ribs. Got the holes drilled out for the handrails I'm going to put on after it's painted. Let's see, I haven't got this glued down yet. I still got to put the weight back in and then glue this back to this. But I added a bell on the front there and everything. The headlight in there. Well, I haven't got the headlight in there, but I did the place for the headlight. So, and then where the original bell was, I filled it in with some body filler. I sanded those little humps there smooth. And so we got the ribs on. I used like cardstock for the ribs, cut it out, super glued it on, then I lightly sanded it just to make it a little bit thinner, because you can hardly see the originals, so hopefully you can hardly see these, but they'll be there. And then drilled out a couple holes there. That's where the handrail's going to go. I'll make the handrail. And then I added some piping to go across here to line that up, and also that one there. So, and I don't think there's any details on the other side. There was that pipe that come from the little humps there. Come down, I sanded it all smooth. So we got rid of that. So, I think it's ready for a final coat of primer, and then I'll paint it. So I'll just lightly primer this real good. After I gotta take this bottom piece off here, then glue them back together. Put the weight in there. I'll probably wait and put the headlight in after I get it painted. Maybe. Yeah, I think so. I think that's what I'll do. I'm gonna put a little LED in there. It should be pretty easy. I'll just hook it up back here to these wires. It'll come on when it's running forward. So these were off of I think another River Rossi locomotive. I had to cut them off and clean them up a little bit before I glued them back on. I can't remember what they came off of. Those another River Rossi locomotive parts I had over there in a drawer. So that's about it. It's looking pretty good, I think. So I'm just gonna paint it black, do like a flat finish on it. So that's it for now. Alright, here's what we got done. Got the locomotive back together and painted. I still need to put the headlight in it. So, but on the tender, well, here I tried to test run this. The problem was the pickup wheels on this side here do the power pickup for the locomotive, and with the flanges, a lot of the flanges missing, it doesn't have too good of pickup. So to fix that problem, I took the tender apart, and to take one of these style tenders apart isn't too easy. But you got this, which this slides in there, and it's glued in. It is glued in pretty good. So basically what I did was, let's see here, put this back in here real quick, a little bit, show you. There we go. It's kind of in there. What I did was take my razor knife here, a little X-Acto blade, and just got it down in there and just worked it real slow, and just got rid of that glue. Did both sides nice and slow. It took me a good while, so don't rush it. And I had a little boo-boo down there on the bottom I had to patch, and then it's a little bit glued to this little edge up here. Wasn't too much glue on that edge, mostly on both sides. That was the worst parts that were glued. And then, like on the sides there, you can see I had to go down through there with my X-Acto knife, a little bit of glue there, and these ladders on both sides were attached to the chassis with a drop of glue. Those popped free pretty easy. I just worked it with my knife a little bit, got them loose and popped free. But as I said, it took me probably a good 30-40 minutes to worked that loose to get it out. And then I cleaned it up a little bit with my file, got some of the old glue off. The big old patch inside there I filed down. But that's how those come apart. And then when I got in there, I seen that it had U-channel. It runs from the front to the rear. And that's what the screws from your trucks mount to, that get the electrical current or whatever run through, and then it comes to the pin here, which goes to the draw bore on the locomotive over there. It does the pickup. Then on the front truck, I left it all original pickup tabs and everything. Didn't do much different there, except for, you can see right there's a little red wire coming out of the bottom here. I soldered a little red wire, I brought a wire through that hole, soldered it to that backside of that tab. That way I could run it to this plug and run it to the locomotive, so it gets good power flow going through there. Sometimes these pins, you know, they don't quite contact too well, I guess, so you might get trouble running them sometimes. So this will hopefully take care of that problem. But like I said, the locomotive only picks up on the one side, and it was having problems because it's missing all those flanges. So the rear truck of this tender, I took that tab out, the original tab out for pickups, flipped the wheels the other way so they would pick up on this side, because these ones pick up on this side. So I need to pick up on the other rail, so I flipped them around. And on the truck, I drilled a little hole through it, and then ran that little brass wire through there, then glued it in place and bent it where it needed bent. And it rubs the axle shafts and also rubs the backside of the wheel on by the flanges up there, so it should pick up pretty good. And then I soldered a wire to it under there and drilled a little hole through the shell and ran the other wire up and into the shell and out. So they're both connected there, one for each side, with that little plug. So it's coming real handy. And then I gotta run that into the locomotive. So I think this little plug will probably run out of that little square piece there in the bottom. Let's see, run out somewhere where that little notched out area is, and get it fitted in there. So that should work pretty good, I hope. So the only thing left to do to this is primer paint it, and I think that's it. Put it back together. But it was pretty light, so I added about an ounce of weight in it. I got those little, these are a 1/4 ounce each. I put 4 of them in there. I got the sticky back to it. They come real handy, especially on train cars and stuff, passenger cars or whatever. So you just peel it, cut off however many you need, peel them, sticks right on. Good, they stick real good usually. So I put 4 of them in there to give it about an ounce of weight, and it feels like it'd probably be okay now. But that's all we've done to the tender so far. So get pickup both sides. Like I said, this side picks up and then this side picks up. And I had to take that tab out of there, because if you don't take that tab out of there, it'll cause a short when you know, because it'll be picking up from the original way. You don't want that. So I had to kind of isolate this rear truck by itself. So that's why I added that wire in there like I did, and that, and ran the wires, and then ran a wire to the front truck so to get better pickup. So, but now I got to put this back together, and I'll probably, when I put this back together, I probably just use a couple drops of Elmer school glue, because this fits kind of tight. Once you get it all the way in there, it's kind of tight. But I'll put just a couple drops on it, just to make sure it doesn't slide out any. And if I ever need to take it apart, it'll come apart super easy. No more, I don't know what they use, some kind of like heavy duty glue, because it was like I said, it took me about 30-40 minutes to pry this thing loose. So and then put this together and see what it does. Alright everybody, we got this thing all finished and put back together here. Got it painted, decaled, got the railings all on. The only thing I didn't do was put a headlight in it like I said I was going to. I just wanted to get it back together and see how it would run. and I ain't worried about a headlight. I can always add it, no big deal. Probably wouldn't take me 15-20 minutes to put one in it, but I didn't put one in it. So let's take a look at it. All nice and decaled. Road number 9000. Front here. I put the lens back in where the headlight was going to go. I can always put the headlight in from behind, and because that boiler cover will come off, and then the shell comes off pretty easy. So it wouldn't take but a matter of a few minutes to run it through there and hook it up. But I made these number plates, number boards for it. They go up here by the stack, and then it's 9000 there. See the other side here. So not too bad. I think it turned out pretty good. You see all the flanges missing off all those drivers. The only ones that have the flanges left on it is the front set and the rear set. So it goes around the curves pretty good. I had problems with running on different sections of the layout, like the lower section where the amusement park is. The first time I ran around there, it went around but derailed. I don't think that track is really flat. It's got some up and high and low spots in it. So I know the mid section does. I didn't even attempt it. But the very top section goes across the suspension bridge, and the other bridge over there is the flattest ones I've got. And it did run around there a couple times. But I had a couple of these screws here come out while it was running, so I had to put them back in. And I went and Loctite those in real good. So hopefully I won't do that anymore. So we'll take a look at the tender. Turned out really nice, I think. Got the wire coming out there, and it connects to the wire on the locomotive there. Just make for better pickup. And then the back side, UP 9000 tender. And you can see the pickups I got on there. They seem to work pretty good. So it surprised me a little bit. So I had another problem during the test run here, and what I had to do was add an extension to the drawbar, because the tender with the original drawbar off the Hudson chassis was too short for this tender. For some reason the pin on this tender is back a little bit further than some of the other River Rossi tenders, so it's real close up there. And when it would go around the curves, it wouldn't get electrical contact and try to derail a little bit. So what I did was take a piece of brass U-channel and fit over top that drawbar. I had to grind down each side of the drawbar just a little bit to get that piece of channel over it. And here's what it looked like, just a piece of brass U-channel that I had. So basically slipped it over that drawbar, and then what I did was trimmed it, or grind it down here and a little bit on the other side, so I could crimp that on there, crimp them two edges down around onto that drawbar, which made it pretty tight. And then drilled out a new hole for it, and then added a piece of brass to that original rod, just soldered a little extension to it. So, and then on the bottom side I soldered that in there, so it shouldn't pull out. It's pretty strong, and the tender sits down in there nice, and a little bit back, a little bit further, but not too far. Probably like that right there. So now it should go around the curves better. So I'm gonna hook it back up and try that. All right, everybody, I've got it on the top level of the layout, so it'll go across the big bridge here and also the suspension bridge. So I'm gonna go fire it up and we'll see what she does. It's running. Run a little fast. I don't know how the slow speed would be on it. I think his tracks up there might be a little dirty too. It seems like it gets over there, it slows down a little bit. Might be a little dirty in that one section. We'll slow her down a little bit here. We got her going a little slower. I think it's going to need a different, or at least a better can motor. That's just a cheap can motor I got in it. And it stopped. Oh, there you go. I got a nice, or supposedly a better can motor on its way in the mail. So hopefully that one works out. I'll put one of those style in. It's a 5-pole. I'll hook some train cars up to it and see how it pulls. Probably won't pull very good with that cheap motor in it. Other than that though, it's running pretty good. No derailments. Not yet. Let's see here. Stop it. All right, here it comes. Something about that curve right there. It wants to slow down a little bit. Track's probably dirty. Going across the suspension bridge. Ain't running too bad, but it's got a 3-pole motor in it, so it's not that great. Need to find a better can motor to put in it probably. With the train cars, it won't run too slow. Don't have the power to pull it. But it runs quiet. Runs pretty good. Alright, I got the locomotive sitting here on the workbench. Going to show you a better look at it real quick. So, let's start with the bottom here. You can see it's got 2 base plates off the river Aussies on there. Screwed in. And then a Pacific style rear pilot put on. Trailing truck. And this originally being square motor chassis. The screw for the Pacific style pilot, rear pilot here, or trailing truck, won't screw into the original hole there. Now if you have one of the round motor Hudsons, they changed that thread size, the screw size, to where it will fit into there. So I think they did that for like on the John Wilkes as a Hudson, has the trailing truck off a Pacific on it, and it screws right in there. And that's the way I do a lot of my builds. So the round motor ones, it'll screw right in. If not, you have to make that little adapter, which I just made out of a piece of brass, screwed it, cut that screw down a little bit, and screwed it into that little brass plate. So it works out fine. And like I said, I want to keep this like it, River Aussie. Look like a River Aussie. It's got the two screws back here. You can see one there, and down there. And then you still got the screw up here underneath the front truck, and you can pull that shell right off just like you would on a normal Hudson. So I wanted to try to keep it like that. And then the can motor is like right under the shell here, and it's powered by this wheel set, I believe, here. This one, the third one's back, and the front set still has flanges, and the rear set still has flanges, and the rest of them have been grinded off. So we'll show you here, get a close up. So I got them nice and polished up a bit. They look really good. So, and the frame's nice and straight on it, which is nice. And like I said, on the front here, these that is water heaters or whatever they're called. I found those off another River Aussie, I don't know, parts over there. And added the bell. So I think that's the original bell off this Hudson. I just made the mount for it. And then the number board's up here, just out of some styrene. Pretty simple stuff. And then added the piping, made it longer, you know, on the side there, and the ribs and all that. So, and then like I said, I didn't want the motor in the cab. So I don't know if we can see in there or not. Basically used the back of a boiler, like one of the red box versions I had laying in there, and glued that in so the cab's all open now. So, and then you got the little wire that connects to the tender hanging out there, and then the tender, just painted it, and you know, did the wheel pickup like in the video says on what I did. So this one picks up on this side, front one picks up on the opposite side. It's all wired to here, the connector. Also left to where it's still connected to the pin too for this set, and so it gets the power through the pin and the wire, and this back set just gets the power through the other wire. So that seemed to work pretty good. I added some weight to it, about an ounce of weight to there. So this thing was really light, I thought, so I added about an ounce of weight inside there, and then stuck all that back in there and painted it all and decaled it all. And I think I got weights inside the back here. I think they're I put them into the top of the shell. I think about 3/4 of an ounce maybe. So it's fairly balanced. Let's see here. Get right about the middle. Yeah, it's pretty close to being balanced. A little bit more heavier in the front, I think, with that big weight. But so that's it. It took me a good while to build. Never built one quite like this with the frames added together. So, well, I hope you all enjoyed the video on how I built this 412-2. I've always wanted the 412-2. They, you know, the Broadway limited models, they're expensive and stuff, and I was just like, well, I could probably build me one out with some parts, you know, and that's why I tried to do on this one. And it took me a good while. I probably got, you know, over a month just trying to build it. And you're trying to find a wheel combination on it was a real pain, because I had to switch wheels around, recorder them and all that. Oh, that was a nightmare. But we got it back together, and it is running. It runs fairly well with that motor in there. I think what I'm going to do, once I find me a really nice 5-pole or another can motor of some kind, and then I'll switch it out to one of those. But this was just a cheap motor I come across in the Micro Market catalog for like $10, and I was like, yeah, we'll try that one. And that's what I ended up using. So we'll probably change that out later. Maybe add the LED once we get to that part. But as of now, I'm pretty happy with it. It looks good. It ran fairly well. Didn't pull a lot of cars. Did a lot of work to it. Like I said, the wheel configurations, moving wheels and stuff like that, because some of those wheels have the rubber band or the rubber traction tires on, so you can't grind those ones down. So I had to be moving wheels around, re-quarter them and all that. And that took me a good while to do. But traction tires on the front ones and on the rear ones, I think. The rest of them are solid, and I grinded the flanges down on those. And when you guys do that, be very careful with how you, when you do that. Don't heat those things up, or you could distort them and stuff. So I just took my time, went nice and slow. That took me a good while to grind them all down. It's nice and slow, didn't let them get warm, heated up really or anything, so it wouldn't mess them up. And but I think it turned out pretty nice. You know, a lot cheaper than the Broadway model, but well, I don't run as good as the Broadway model, but not really prototypical looking like the real one. I tried to, you know, add some stuff to it and stuff to make it look closer to the real one, but this is more of a like a River Rossi looking style. You know how they did a lot of locomotives, the same ones, just pre-painted them different, you know. But the underside and everything's all the River Rossi. It comes apart just like it would if it was a Hudson. It was the way I wanted it to look, like it was River Rossi built, sort of in a way. But I hope you all enjoyed this video, and please like and subscribe, and thanks for watching.